Okay. So, hi. I'm making this video because I want to be able to like relive this moment, or at least tell this story while it's still really fresh in my mind. My name's Micah Munden, and last night my friends and myself hiked in the Colorado Rocky Mountains, and we danced with death. So essentially, let's just start from the beginning, I guess. So I flew to Colorado from Boise, Idaho, because my friend Kat had invited me onto a backpacking trip for my birthday. My birthday is March 16th, and the backpacking trip was going to be March 31st through April 2nd. And I was totally into it. So this was a couple of months before the actual hiking trip. And so I was sent over information. We decided to do the 10th Mile Hut Association in Colorado. I am currently actually inside of Harry Gates' hut, and that was what we had planned. So, you know, I come into Colorado, acclimate for a couple of days, and then we meet up with the group of people that we're supposed to be going with. And like before I came to Colorado, I did a lot of research. I was reading about the hike into the hut. I read lots of blogs about it. I looked at the terrain. I looked at about how hard it was going to be to make it up here. I had never snowshoed in my life. I'm an avid hiker, but I've never snowshoed. I looked into the type of gear that I needed. I really prepared pretty heavily for this trip. But I'm the type of person who normally likes to have printouts of everything, or at least everything written down in my journal, and to have my own directions. But instead I placed my faith into other people, and that's a lesson I learned to just continue to do what I do when it comes to planning. But anyways, so we follow some of our friends to a spot where we were all supposed to meet to go on this hiking trip. However, our lead, who was the person that was supposed to be in charge of, you know, the leader of the group, like, this is where we're parking, this is where we're hiking up, like, she knew the route, like, she already looked into avalanches, everything. They didn't meet up with us. We got lost, had no service, and we couldn't find them. Now, the people that we were with had done research prior, and there was a road called Burnt Mountain Road that you could get onto and then connect with the trail to make it to the hut system. And so since we couldn't find the parking lot, and we knew that this road connected at some point, we went ahead and decided to take that road. So the original hut hike is about a 7.1 mile hike with about a 2,000 foot elevation gain. It takes people roughly about 5 hours. We started this hike at, I want to say like 11 noon-ish. And we did not arrive at the hut until like 10:30 at night, almost 11. It was dark for hours. And it was the scariest thing I've ever done. So because we chose because we chose, sorry, it's so much. Because we chose to go this other route, it was a lot more gruesome, and it added on, instead of us only doing the 7 miles, we ended up hiking 11 miles that we weren't prepared for. It's much, much, much harder to hike in snow, especially with snowshoes. And I mean, just thinking about it, like, is making me tear up, because that was the hardest thing I've ever done. So we start hiking, and we all know that this isn't like the proper trail that we're supposed to be on, and it's just going straight uphill forever. I mean, in total, we probably gained at least 4,000, if not 5,000 feet in elevation yesterday because of the up and down of this road and having to hike up and down it. It was, nobody has hiked on it or snowshoed or snowmobiled or anything recently. So we were the first ones to make tracks, which is a lot. It's a lot of hard work. And, you know, we got to a 3-mile point, which we thought was going to be halfway, because we were expecting to do like 3.5. You know, this hike was only supposed to be 7 miles. And we were so exhausted. We sat on the side of a mountain and made a tiny little fire. And 3 of us actually were thinking about how we should turn back. You know, and as grateful as I am to be surviving right now, like, that definitely would have been a better experience, was to just turn back. But we didn't voice our concerns, and we just went forward. So voice your concerns in life. But, you know, we just kept on hiking, and, you know, we'd have moments where we'd go down for a mile, and then it would have like another 3 miles straight up. And we were all exhausted. You know, I said we started hiking at like 11. It took us until, like, to give you the idea of elevation that we were gaining in snowshoes and skis, it took us from 11:30 noonish to about 5 o'clock to reach like the 3.5 mile mark where we made the fire. So it was really, really intense. But yeah, so we knew it got dark at 7:30. And so at the 5 o'clock mark, we're like, okay, like, we could make it there before dark. And we decided to keep trucking along. We were very, very wrong. We hit our 6-mile point, and we realized that we weren't anywhere near this hut. And so we had guesstimated about another 1.5 miles, maybe 2 miles to the hut. And so, you know, it's getting dark outside. Like, it's like slowly turning. We can see the sun slowly setting, and we just decided to push it. And so we get about that 1.5 miles in, and we find out that we were very wrong. We still had about another 4 miles until we hit this hut. And it's, I mean, we have seconds to decide if we're going to set up a camp in the daylight or if we're going to keep on pushing through darkness, when our bodies are already exhausted, and we at this point had done 8 miles. Or no, it was 7 miles at this point. With mainly elevation in all of those miles, mind you. And, you know, we all kind of just sat in this corner, and we had to have a serious conversation of whether or not we wanted to try to build a snow igloo and take the 6 of us and surround ourselves in our sleeping bags and huddle, and then have a person like stay awake or like do shifts of people sleeping. So somebody can tend to the fire and watch out for wolves, because there was wolves tracks everywhere. Or if we were going to push our exhausted, aching bodies. Because mind you, while we're doing all this hike, we have been carrying about 50 pounds on our back. Or just keep pushing. And we were all already pretty much in tears. We were all very frustrated. We all felt really lost because it's not like we could just go back to the highway because, again, we're in the middle of the Rocky Mountains. And even when we were driving up here, I think there was one car that passed us. And so on a Thursday night, we're probably not going to have many people pass us. And so we didn't really have any options other than to push forward or sleep outside with no tent gear or anything like that. And so we decided to push. At that point, I had lost all my dignity, didn't care. We had somebody behind us. I took a shit on the side of the trail. And, you know, we were so tired. I just kept on looking at the snow banks and I was like, I just want to lay down. Like, I just want to lay down and I can't move anymore. And, you know, it's when Kat looked at me and I was like, dude, I just want to take a break. She just looked at me and she said, we can't lay down. We can't take a break because that's how you die. And we were quite literally like facing mortality. I think with the 6 of us that were there, if we would have built an ice hut and would have wrapped our sleeping bags and did shifts and tried to keep the fire alive, I mean, we would have survived through the night, but it was horrible. And so in that moment, you know, it started getting really real, that we were in an incredibly dangerous situation, and how unprepared we were for this because nobody packed any tents or anything. We didn't have a tarp, we had nothing. We just realized like how sucky this was gonna be. So, you know, we kind of had 2 options. We had the option to either really freak out, you know, which is gonna use a lot of energy, or we had to like remain positive and like pushed our bodies beyond exhaustion. And it was really hard at first. I remember like I said, I stopped. I felt sick. I shit on the side of the road. I then screamed curse words because I was just so tired. Like, I don't think you guys understand the amount of exhaustion we were already in, all of us. And like I said, about at least 5,000 elevation. And so in those moments, I just kind of thought about different people I know or stories I've read of humans who have survived situations like this and what they did to survive. And so I found myself having to focus fully on the people I love and how this isn't the last time I'm gonna see them, and how I will literally push my body to collapse if it means trying to find safety and shelter. I mean, this was straight up looking mortality into the face. Oh, fuck. It was a very, like, as sad as I am, not even sad, but as emotional as I am about this, I can say it was also so spiritual. I've never in my life have felt that much mortality. You know, I struggle a lot. I can struggle a lot with suicidal thoughts and depression. I take SSRIs, they've changed my life. But in those moments where I was actually like death was there, it was very easily could have happened. I realized that's not what I want, and that I have so much to live for. It was just spiritual, you know, and really connecting with myself, and so I just kept on focusing on multiple things to push myself. I decided to fuel myself and fuel my adrenaline. Like I literally felt like fight or flight kick in, and I just started going, and I just started thinking about, honestly, like over and over again, I just told myself, like, I'm going to marry Austin. Like, I'm going to propose to Austin. I'm going to, like, I am going to, the minute I get phone service, I'm calling, I'm putting 2 weeks into my job, and I'm just starting a different life, and I'm going to do things that make me happy, and you know, I started thinking about like my family, how this isn't the last time I'm gonna see any of like this is not it. Like, I'm gonna see them again. Like, I'm gonna push through this. And I just hyper focused on that for like the rest of the 4 miles. And it really fueled me up. I really allowed love and like and the understanding that like death is not what I want right now, that I have too much cool shit to do. I really let that like sink in. You know, and it was getting really scary. So it got dark at 7:30, like really dark. Mind you, we're up in the Colorado Rocky Mountains. Like, I'm literally in the middle of nowhere. We have no cell phone service. Everything that you read about this trip is that you are self-rescue. If something happens, you are SOL. Like, there is no way that anybody's getting you out but yourself. And it was really hard. I don't know, but one of us was hurt and we kept pushing and we got separated. One of the people in our group was super fast and he just booked it in front of everybody, and you know, that was really nerve-wracking for us. And then we had one person hurt in the back, and myself and 2 other girls were in the middle. It was Kat and Megan. And we would wait for people to catch up with us, but when you stopped walking and it was pitch black outside, you got so cold. And so we just had to keep moving. We started finding solace though, once we realized that we were actually getting closer to the hut. We did have a map that was telling us where we were, but obviously like we totally underestimated the route that we took. And I remember the last push, we like had this moment of like relief because we came across a sign that said Harry Gates Hut. Mind you, that was the only sign this entire trip. Everything else, there was not a single sign. Like, in the 11 miles that we did, there was not a single sign. And we saw it said Harry Gates, or it said Gates Hut. And we're like, oh my God, it's up there. And it checked out because what I read was that the last part of the hut, the last mile, is very hard. Like, it's the hardest part. And that was so true, you know? And so we were at this like point of absolute exhaustion. We had been hiking for, you know, I mean, we hiked for damn near 11 hours yesterday, 10 hours, 10 and a half, on a fucking breakfast burrito and some snacks. Like, and, we hit that last part, and everybody like was so excited. We were all so defeated too. We were screaming, we were cursing at each other. We were, it was hard. The trek through the snow up to the hut was very, very deep. Deeper than our pools, like our hiking pools. And we had like this one little bed, and Kat like blacked out. She was so exhausted and she was dehydrated, and her pack was really heavy, and she blacked out. And we had two other boys ahead of us, so the hut were nearby. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna hike up there and see how far it is. Like, you guys help her real quick. So I hiked up, and it was close. And we were actually able to get everybody in here safely. But like the minute we, sorry, I'm like tired too. The minute we got in here, this like seating area behind me, I collapsed on it. I just started crying and like shedding my clothes and crying. It was so hard. Traumatic. I've never put my body through that much anguish. It was literally pushing every limit I had, mentally, physically. I mean, I've never done anything that hard. Ever. Like, it wasn't enjoyable. The only thing that's like enjoyable about that is the fact that I survived, and that I can see that I can do that. And there's just the thoughts of like when I was near death, what I would do to change my life, that I'm gonna do. Because I think in those moments you really realize like what you want. And fuck, it's so emotionally draining, physically draining. It's just such, I don't know if oxymoron's the word, though, because at the same time with that being the hardest, scariest, most intense experience I've ever had, the most challenging experience I've ever had, the most I've ever felt pushed, the closest I've ever felt to mortality, like the real true understanding of mortality. Like, I also wouldn't take it back at this point, because I learned so much from that. So much. I wouldn't take it back. That fucking sucked. That was terrible. But also, I feel so much wiser and so proud of myself and my whole group for doing that. Yeah. We're in a really beautiful spot now. We're going to enjoy our day here. I'm going to take a nap after this and chill. We'll eat some food. We played some card games. I'm writing in my journal. I'm filming this. I'll take some photos later. Man, I'm fucking happy to be alive. Yeah. I'm just happy to be alive. Yeah. Thanks for watching.